The World Bank Africa supports Gambia's maiden economic update amid the global pandemic. Samia Suluhu Hassan becomes Tanzania's first female president as he replaces Magufuli. And Nigeria's youth unemployment hits high amidst the impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Well, these and more coming your way on News Desk. Hello, this is Africa TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, the World Bank Africa has on Thursday launched the Gambia's first economic update, which is meant to address the developmental challenges so as to boost the strength of the country's economy. The Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs observed that agricultural sector on which the country is heavily reliant is among the areas affected by the coronavirus global pandemic. Details in this report by Ndesise.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mambren Jai, described the launch of the country's economic update as significant in fast-tracking recovery programs set therewith. The meeting done via Zoom vibrated the fact that Gambia was not left behind among recipients of the economic backlash brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Finance Minister Njai prescribed the need to improve economic strengths in areas such as agriculture, trade and tourism,
with the aim of preserving macroeconomic stability. As the theme of this economic update goes, we must be in a position to preserve the gains which can only be achieved with knowledge derived from timely and relevant data. As we are all aware, sectors of the economy, especially tourism and agriculture, went through turbulent periods over the past years as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and effects of. With these two sectors being of growth and employment has suffered impacts with negative effects on our population. While considerable efforts have been made by government to ensure that these sectors remain resilient against these shocks, we believe for they take on board the recommendations set out in the report to enable us to achieve goals. It is government's utmost to improve the lives and livelihoods of Gambians, which would be made easier if they are economically empowered.
The World Bank resident representative to the Gambia, Fiber Office, hoped that the launch of the economic update will help the Gambia to revive its economy.
A presentation on the findings of the report by the country economist, followed by a panel and some additional presentations on the subtopics. So I hope this session and the report will help the Gambia design sustainable, inclusive, and green economic policies that will galvanize the country and put it on the path to job creation and economic transformation.
The West African state with a least developed economy also depends highly on the export trade, tourism, and remittances from overseas. The country's main trading partners in Europe have been severely affected by a COVID-19 outbreak, causing a development crisis on both sides in terms of import and exports of goods and services. The country is trapped in an extreme debt-to-GDP ratio in the monitoring of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, who have advised donors to isolate the country until the mathematics improve. As a result, major infrastructural developments such as expansion of the Banjul ports remain stagnant due to lack of support from the international community. The European Union is among the international donors that have withheld the fulfillment of its pledges to support development projects in the Gambia on the basis of financial regulations. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
The World Bank launches Gambia's first economic update amidst the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Next to Tanzania, where Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in as the Tanzania's first female president on Friday after the sudden death of President John Magufuli. Well, Suluhu Hassan, who became the first female president upon John Magufuli's election in 2015, also becomes East Africa's only female head of state. Tanzania's constitution, she will be serving the reminder of the late President Magufuli's 5-year term that began last year. Magufuli died of a heart condition on Wednesday, aged 61. And from Tanzania now to Egypt, because the Egyptian government plans to improve its public spending as part of efforts to uplift the lives of the citizens amidst the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Authorities of the North African country also seek to improve the tax collection management with the use of technology to boost revenue collection. Here are more details of that in this report.
The newly announced budget reflects the state's policies to deal with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Economic growth rate is forecast to remain below the pre-COVID target of 5.5%, although total spending is set to rise by 9% year-on-year. Most of it is aimed at boosting social services.
We see a big increase in expenditure in education, the school and university levels, as well as the same increase in spending on the health sector. This goes with President Sisi's pledge in his second term in office to overhaul and upgrade the health and education services in the country with the aim to improve the quality of life for Egyptians.
Expenses will also be geared towards raising salaries and pensions, increasing social welfare programs for the poor, and emergency aid packages for struggling businesses and institutions. The government is not eyeing any tax hikes in the 2021-2022 fiscal year, but it expects revenues to jump by 13%. This is in spite of the significant drop in important sources of income, such as tourism and exports, which have been battered by the pandemic.
Though he announced no tax increase, the government is seeking to improve tax collection management with better trained tax collectors, incentives for taxpayers, and introducing technology to reduce tax evasion. Another important revenue stream will come from investments in several sectors such as real estate, which is picking up quickly and attracting a lot of investors. We have huge mega projects, building new cities, roads, transport, industrial zones, attracting investments in multiple industries, including renewable energy projects and digital transformation.
Numbers show optimism of a recovery from the pandemic next year, with the budget surplus forecast to more than double, pushing deficit down by 1.2% of GDP.
The Egyptian government dared to improve public spending to help improve the lives of the citizens. Now, the Senegalese Deputy Director General of Police, General Amadou Ahmed Lam, has on Thursday paid a courtesy call on the family of the late IGP Mahmoud Job in his residence in Sinch Alaji. Here are more details of that in this report.
The visit, according to him, is meant to showcase the joint security success the two countries had gained during the late IGP Job's tenure in office. General Lam said the two security chiefs had common agenda to strengthen the existing relationship between the two countries, calling Job as a God-fearing leader who dedicated his life to serving his country. He further commended the smooth movement of goods and services between the two countries.
General Usman Sy sent me and my delegation to come and pay condolence to the Gambia Police Force, the people of the Gambia, and the family of the late IGP. My boss and the late Job were not just colleagues but friends too, and had constantly been in touch to strengthen the existing relationship between the two countries. That's why he personally should have been here. But due to the situation in Senegal, that's why I'm here with this delegation on his behalf to present his heartfelt condolences to the family and the Gambia in general.
The family of the late IGP Job said although they have lost a family member, but have seen and felt the testimonies of people from all walks of life. The family further expressed gratitude to the Senegalese government, particularly the police administration, under the leadership of General Usman Sy, for sending his deputy to the Gambia. This, according to the family, shows his qualities in leadership. Mr. Usman Gay, a cousin to the late Job, described him as a role model and a good leader whose qualities of leadership should be emulated by young officers to promote peace in the Senegambia region.
Mahmoud Job was a school that every Gambian can learn something from Mahmoud Job. And religious leaders have said a lot about him, relatives, friends, even the police. If you want a good attitude, you can learn from Mahmoud Job. Dedication, you can learn from Mahmoud Job. Respect for duties, you can learn from Mahmoud Job. Sympathy, go and learn from the school of Mahmoud Job. That was why I think God have assigned him to be a police training instructor for quite a long time. So whatever good attitude we see from the police, we have to thank him for that. We know that it's from the late Mahmoud Job. It's only Allah who can pay him. And I know even the President Adama Barrow know that he has lost a great leader, somebody who was his right hand. We, the family, we were very shocked, but because of the crowd, the good deeds that people have explained have reduced our sadness, and change it into joy, because now we know that our own relative Mahmoud Job was a great man.
Gambia's Deputy IGP Abdoulaye Sanyang revealed that his former boss was very keen in strengthening the bilateral relations between the Gambia and Senegal.
There has been a cordial relationship between the Gambia and Senegal. So the relationship between the Inspector General of Police, the lead, and the Director General of Senegal Police is not only a working relationship, it's a family tie. They talked almost every day. They last spoke last Wednesday. I spoke to both of them. So that relationship will be further cemented, and we will ensure that these two forces work together for the benefit of the two countries.
Police Chief Mahmoud Job died last Saturday at Medicare Clinic in Brusubi. The late IGP Job served in various units of the police force for about 40 years and spent the greater part of his career as the administrator of the police training school in Yundum. The late Mahmoud Job is survived by 3 wives and 4 children.
And from the report they are filed in by Sohna Tunkra, as the head of the Senegalese police sent a delegation to extend his condolences to the family of the late IGP at his residence in Sinchalaji. Well, there's more news coming ahead, but for now we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and now to matters of the National Assembly, because the Committee of Health, Women and Children on Thursday presented the Women Amendment Bill of 2020 for a continuation on the amendment process. The bill, which is geared towards protecting the rights of women in the Gambia, was first tabled before the National Assembly in June last year by the former Justice Minister. Fatmata Kasim tells us more of that in this report.
If the bill passes all the lawmaking stages, public institutions will be required to observe a mandatory 30% women representation to bridge gender gap in employment. For education placement, including scholarship packages, the bill prescribes a minimum of 50% allocated for women. Some of these allocations have been interpreted as gender bias in some quarter within the National Assembly. The representative of Banjul Central gave a bit of explanation why he might not support some of the provision in the amendment bill.
I have a concern with B. 50% is on the high side. It's somehow gender bias, because sometimes you might have eligible candidates who are male. And like, for example, in a situation that the 75% are male and 25 are female, if you happen to give the 50% to the female, then it will be gender bias.
However, the National Assembly member for Serekunda reminded his colleagues that the time for the debate has already elapsed and for them to move on without amendments.
What we are doing is, in fact, contrary to the standing orders. This is not a debate. We've already engaged in the debate. It's concrete recommendation for amendment. And the procedures are there. Procedure, before 2 p.m., anybody who wanted any form of amendment, it should have been submitted. If there is no notice, then the person must write and submit it. If that is not done, those issues are just opinions. They are not for consideration. The only consideration now is what has been submitted by the committee. I have not seen any other legitimate submission made.
The bill is also expected to domesticate several international obligations and commitments by the Gambia relating to women's rights. Since the enactment of the Women's Act in 2010, significant strides have been made on the side of law enforcement to protect women in the country. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
All right, and from the report there by Fatmata Kasim, finally to Nigeria now, where the lack of job opportunities in the country continues to cause more economic hardship for the citizens, as more than 20 million people are without a job, according to the country's National Bureau of Statistics. Many businesses in the West African country were forced to shut down due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. Now, despite the measures put in place to resuscitate the economy, some analysts believe more needs to be done to improve the situation. Let's have more details of that in this report.
It's been about 7 years now since Jacob Onuche graduated from the university, but he's not been able to find a job. He's attended several job interviews, but none has landed him a job yet.
I served Nigeria government as a youth corps in 2014, and since then, life has not been the same. You see, you have a younger one that are still looking onto you to become something so that they can tap from you. Your parents are there. They're training in school and they're expecting a return from you, and there's nothing to show up. So what are you saying? See, this is where we find ourselves.
Onuche is just one of the 23.2 million Nigerians the National Bureau of Statistics says are unemployed. Of that figure, the majority are youths of active working age like Onuche. And with the number of graduates entering the labor force every year far outpacing the number of jobs created, it's inevitable the situation could worsen.
The federal government will give advertisement of job opportunity. The company will do the same thing and they'll tell you you must have 5 years experience. 2 years experience, 3 years experience. This is a young graduate that is just coming out of youth corps service.
Economic experts say the current job situation in Nigeria might have been better if the COVID-19 pandemic had not happened. Businesses were forced to shut down and workers laid off at the peak of the pandemic. Many of these businesses are not back, and even those that have come back are still struggling.
And you recall in 2019 August, the lockdown of our borders to neighboring countries in the ECOWAS, also in the Niger, Benin Republic, Togo, and all the rest, also have an impact in this increased labor statistics.
The rising unemployment rate is a big headache for a government that is also struggling to rein in on rising inflation and get the economy back on track following the easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Analysts say the government needs to take drastic actions like giving businesses tax breaks so they could recruit more.
In this process, cutting taxes, we can also put a benchmark on companies that retain or recruit more from this net that we have, that we need to also put back into the labor status, into the labor market, wherein if company A employ 100 number of people within the period Q3, Q4, and retain them for 12 months, you have particular rebates. We believe that all this can also stimulate the economy in the long run.
As for job seekers like Onuche, any policy or strategy that will get him that elusive job will be just fine.
Why we are facing this unemployment.
And from that report there in Abuja, Nigeria, we finally bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on our site on iafrica.tv. But other thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022 to successfully host the OIC summit.